I often ask my guests on the podcast if they believe that gamers are angry or if YouTubers are making them angry. Because the gaming industry is in conflict with itself, and it has been building up over the years to a point where we get GamerGate 2.0. Now, over the last 10 years, we've all been witness to legacy media being more and more captured by leftist ideology, and in so have gotten article after article claiming that gamers are the real problem. There are so many issues to unpack here, from the calls for censorship and cancel culture to the narcissistic entitlement of these publications and what they tend to run with. It's no wonder that they're so out of touch. This is where we see various legacy gaming media outlets run and just point fingers and call content creators grifters as a way to try and delegitimize their opinion and their audience. So for the sake of a definition, I define grifter as someone who is doing something, but they don't actually believe in what they're doing. They're just finding success in doing something that they don't believe in. So when I see someone like Kinda Funny's Andy Cortez talk about grifting, it really makes me think that they're completely out of touch with what gamers are wanting.
You fucking need DEI because you wouldn't have jobs if DEI didn't exist to complain about. You wouldn't be making money on YouTube if DEI didn't exist. So you're really the ones that need it. Unless your game has only white dudes. If you have a woman, she better be fucking hot.
Yeah.
You know, get an ugly woman out of my game. That lady better be super smoking hot. Yep. That's the way they think, right? Back in the day, game development studios were primarily white dudes. And they didn't really think about diversity. And that's one thing, right? It was a lot rarer to find non-white dudes in game development. And as that changes, and as college and learning and all that stuff kind of becomes more ubiquitous and more available for everybody, more and more people from different walks of life want to get into game development.
Yeah.
And then what happens then?
They're making the characters the people that they know, the things that they see.
And it's
just like the white people do.
just like you put yourself into stories, right?
Yeah.
And I talked about that with Dragon Age Veilguard, how the game director, Corinne Bush, she's a trans woman. And sometimes in games, you just put in your own sort of experiences. And that's so natural to happen.
That's what art is.
It's nothing that's supposed to offend anybody. It's supposed to be, hey, fucking walk around and look around. The world has everybody. Your game's having it shouldn't stop you from playing it.
Now, he goes on to say in a follow-up tweet, YouTubers used to get angry about loot boxes and forced monetization. So many now get angry about having to play as a black guy in Subnautica 2 or wanting the sexual assault victims in Silent Hill 2 to be hotter. Corporate executive greed and mass layoffs are destroying the games industry. Please be mad about the things that are actually affecting people negatively. Now, I'm sure that some people out there who play video games are in fact racist. But just like Andy here, they're completely misrepresenting the point. They're completely not understanding what it is that we're so frustrated about. And it's namely because they live in such an echo chamber and they've been told over and over again that one side is evil versus their side is the heroic virtue, moral police, that it really has started to run its course. Because gamers aren't against diversity. We're against forced diversity, which even Mighty Keef agrees is a bad thing. And while I'm sure there are some gamers out there that are angry, I don't think it's the right word to really classify what's going on. I think fatigue is more apt. The legacy gaming media, the culture war nonsense, it all has hit this saturation point where enough people have been called racist, enough people have been called a bigot.
Yeah, earlier somebody went through the chat on YouTube that was like Phoebe something or other who's like, another woke game, sorry, I won't play it. Yeah, if you're a bigot, you're not gonna have fun in this game.
And enough people have been called phobes that all of a sudden the group calling them has gotten smaller and smaller as they continue to kick people out of their side. The other factor here at play is demand. Now, I make videos here for a wide range of subjects that I want to talk about. Some of those videos do very well, and some of those just do okay. I typically have an idea of how a video will do before I even post it. And being that I believe in what I'm sharing, it's not about how the video performs. It's about telling you the truth in the content itself. It's about having integrity and not being afraid of losing followers and subscribers. A feat, I might add, that I'm actually quite good at. What we're watching unfold in real time is the legacy media imploding because it doesn't have another move other than just to point the finger and yell out phobe as loud as they can. And what they're ultimately getting isn't the attention that they crave, but more and more people are just not trusting the things that they say. This is the boy who cried wolf, or more accurately, the boy who cried bigot. Now, Marty O'Donnell actually highlights this in a way, and so much so, seeing Marty talk about multiple things really does lead me to conclude that the culture war is what forced him out of Bungie. The cultural shift and those different kinds of standards have pushed a lot of game developers, music, and more out of their spaces and told them that they're not welcome because they think wrong. Anyway, Marty writes in a follow-up to Andy's tweet, says, I wish folks like Andy actually made a game at some point in their lives. Making a living spewing nonsense is a sad consequence of today's social media. By the way, I don't think they know the definition of the word grifter. And then in reply to this tweet, Brutus writes, he thinks I've created a list on Steam to list DEI games made by Sweet Baby Inc. just for grifting. Completely clueless and out of touch. Now, Dragon Age the Veilguard comes up a lot in these conversations right now because it is a clear representative of the astroturfing, just as IGN has changed its tune completely on the game, tweeting out that Dragon Age the Veilguard is awkwardly in conflict with itself, torn into pieces and reflecting a sequel to a decade-old RPG and a fresh beginning with no ties to what came before, in which Guy Bricknail says, you guys gave it a 9 out of 10, calling it the best Dragon Age has ever been. Gave it bonus points for its weird non-binary crap. 99% of us reject and raved about its story. You guys have no credibility left. And I think in a way this sums it up as best as Smash JT tweets out, IGN walks back their 9 out of 10 Dragon Age review. Now, I think the problem with IGN specifically is that they're a conglomerate, right? You have a group, a lot of different voices within the industry. Unfortunately, I think a lot of those voices are all on the same page. There's not a lot of diversity of thought within the various different video game legacy media, and I think that's one of the big problems that we see. But my issue here with IGN is generally is that they are speaking on behalf of them as a conglomerate where it is individually rated games and titles, but this is in contrast to the content creator, where if you come to a Ginger Prime video, for example, you get a Ginger Prime opinion. You don't get a corporate opinion run by a whole team of people just trying to continue to put out enough content so that they can keep the lights on and stay relevant, for example. Now, Mighty Keeve tweets out this, and it's interesting. He says, YouTube and Twitter have poisoned video game discourse far before Dragon Age, and I don't see it getting any better, sadly. I push back on the idea that YouTube and Twitter and they've poisoned the discourse around it. I think it's been so one-sided that anybody who had any kind of quote-unquote wrong think, it's a very Orwellian kind of worldview that I see the left coming from in this case, but the wrong think is essentially what the problem is. And now that wrong think is being pushed back on, and yes, to a degree that I don't feel comfortable with in this world. Now, I'm not judging anybody who makes that kind of content. That's just not my style. That is just not my approach. I'm going to constantly look for shared ground in which ways we can have a real discussion about it. But I am just one piece in the puzzle. Everybody has kind of their part to play. So I don't blame anybody for pushing back harder and going really heavy into the mocking, because that is a tool that people have. And being that we have free speech, it is going to be something that I think continues to push back. I don't think it's poisoning the well. I think more speech is what we need. Better speech, better arguments, better information, not this curated BS that we've been getting fed over the last 10 years. Now, we have countless examples from the left with their threats of violence, their harassment, but we also have them saying that they are also being harassed. Now, we only have whispers of that. There are some examples, and so to that, I would say, if you guys are harassing anybody, knock it off. Let's keep it classy. But when it comes down to the receipts, it's clear that they're really redefining harassment to be anything that isn't full agreement to their worldview. Anything that doesn't follow the message to the letter is considered harassment in some respects. Not in every case. We've seen some bad actors for sure, but that's going to be true of both sides. But one tweet from Matt Fresh, who writes for a specific gaming article, writes, "I've been made aware that the GamerGate losers have seen my post here and shared it with Grums on Twitter, so hopefully they see this as well, and please share it with him. You are worthless human beings and you don't have lives worth living. You are in fact Nazis and you should kill yourselves." This guy is an asshole. And if you want, let me just rant on this for a second. And if you want a better example of the intolerance and the absolute blindness that their side possesses, this is what I'm talking about. The constant labeling, the constant, it literally is Nazi behavior. In fact, Nazis coined the phrase, accuse the other side of what you're doing to create confusion. That was later attributed to Karl Marx, but that's why for me, history is not going to remember these guys as the good guys. History is going to remember their side as at best a cult and at worst the Nazis themselves. Now, I can attest to the hate and harassment personally with death threats and so much more, and I've shared those receipts all across my social media, to which when I do share receipts, people are like, oh, you shouldn't highlight those. And when I don't share receipts, people are like, it never happened, you're lying. And so you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't in this situation. And I'm not going to relitigate that here in this video. But I get it. And I get hate from the right too, but it's more of a measured approach to anything where it's more disagreement. Like I get called a cuck, for example, on the right, but the venom that I get, the hate I get, the absolute animosity that I receive online through my content generally comes from the left.
I made 2 separate videos before the election. One of the videos said I was going to vote for Kamala Harris. The other video said I was going to vote for Donald Trump. And I just wanted to see the mixed reactions from people and how people would react, because I do a lot of work from my hometown, do a lot of work from my community. I work with young boys. And I never said who I was voting for. But I made those 2 videos because I want to show people how they are in reality. I made the Donald Trump video and I made the Kamala Harris video. Under the Kamala Harris video, you definitely had some Trump supporters like, well, we understand that you may have a different opinion or whatever, but we still support what you do. Maybe you'll wake up one day, etc., etc. You know, things like that. It wasn't nothing vile, wasn't no bad comments or nothing. I made the Donald Trump video. I got people that unfollowed me. I got people saying they can't support nothing I do no more. I got folk calling me all types of names, etc., etc. But what's crazy is all of the Kamala Harris supporters have become what they accuse Trump supporters of being. When you say you support Donald Trump, y'all be ready to kill him. Y'all ready to burn him at the stake. You calling them all types of names, you unfollowing them, you don't care what they're doing for their community, nothing. If you support Trump, F you, I hate you so much, etc., etc. But all the people under the post, all the Trump supporters, when I said I was gonna vote for Kamala, it was all love anyway. They was like, well, we still support what you're doing. We still gonna donate. We still love the work, even though you don't have to support Donald Trump, etc., etc. So I've only received hate from the people that call themselves the tolerant side, the side that's supposed to be about love, the side that's not about hate. But it's crazy because anytime somebody doesn't agree with you, all you spew is hate. All you give is hate. So it's funny how everybody who call themselves Democrats, you have turned into what you accuse the Republicans of being.
Now, in 2024, GamerGate 2.0 has nothing but victory after victory. But the fight isn't over, and it's going to carry long into the future until game makers and publishers can't risk pushing the message in their multi-$100 million games. If they want to sell copies, that is. Now, Clifton Duncan tweets this out, and I think it's worth discussion. He says, people claiming woke is dead are naive. Entertainment is still controlled by blue goose leftists who hate free speech and who hate you. They're still shutting down dissent. They're still blacklisting wrong thinkers. There's still religiously Marxist monoculture. The election has inspired zero introspection from them among them. And if you accept these politics is downstream of culture, that's now the time to be investing in and creating a new culture. Hollywood is dying. Live theater is in crisis. Comic books are failing. The music industry inept, and publishing industry is corrupt, and video game industry is included in this as well. That's what I'm adding in. But he goes on to say, there's never been a better time for a great American Renaissance. To truly usher in an American golden age, we need competitive culture institutions to crush the current ones, which again are controlled by the people who hate you. America was an art and entertainment superpower in the 20th century. To truly triumph in this new paradigm, we need to invest and develop free-thinking artists so that we can conquer the 21st century too. Otherwise, all the celebration about the end of woke is premature. So now I see gaming shifting more back to the middle ground, namely as these games aren't selling, and the more that they try to label us and not actually take any time to self-reflect, the more we're going to continue to move the ball down the court of this culture war. I just want to spend some time and say thank you guys so much for the opportunity to talk with you guys about this today. This has really been bothering me for a little while. And while the discourse online has been interesting to see over the last few years, I would get torn to shreds for saying something like I'm pro-life or I don't want LGBT content in video games that my kids are playing. Now it seems like common sense is on the move, and hopefully we will continue to bring back gaming to a more neutral area, one in which the artists are free to create the stories and the worlds that they want, and the gaming population is well informed on what they're buying. While I don't get too much time to play with as much as other content creators do, if you ever want to come hang out and talk about this live, check out Ginger Prime TV. It's here on YouTube and on Twitch. All live streams, minus the podcast, will be over there going forward. And thank you guys so much for the support. You recently pushed the channel to over 100 subscribers, and I can't be thankful enough. So if you guys like live content, there you go. Maybe consider checking that out. Now let's end our video as we often do with our message of hope. Couple of points I want to kind of highlight in today's talk. It's really about worry and anxiety. As somebody who's had a lot of anxiety in his life, especially in my 30s, I've talked about that in multiple stories. We'll keep talking about that because there are some interesting life hacks that I want you to be aware of. But I want to focus in on a few things because I want to encourage you to stop worrying about the things that you cannot control. And I get how that might sound. It might sound like it's easy, but it's not. I'm a worrier by default. This is something that I deal with all the time. But worrying about the things that you can't control is a great way to actually steal your joy. And so it actually needs to become a daily practice. And it's in this that I find wisdom and I find strength in the scriptures. And whether you are a Christian or not, these things still have great value to you. And so I'm going to quote a couple of scriptures that I think might be something to help ruminate on the anxiety that you're feeling, on the sense or loss of control, on the worry that can plague your mind, which isn't productive time. You know, if we want to just break it down into productive and unproductive time, worry just takes my time, it takes my joy, and at the end of the day, I wasn't able to have any effect or any impact on it. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 25 through 27, it says, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, or worry about your body or what you will wear. Isn't life more than food and the body more than just clothing? Consider the birds of the sky. They don't sow or reap or gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Aren't you worth more than they? Can any of you add one moment to your lifespan by worrying?" In Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 through 8, it says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, it will guard your hearts and your minds in Jesus Christ. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about those things." So that's what I want to encourage you guys to do. I want you to set down your worry, and whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God, honestly, both ways, you can just give your worry up to Him. And if you don't believe, see what happens. And if you do believe, there you go. Let it down, set it down, and go about and try to live the life that you want to live. Try to live and be the person that you want to be, and set those things aside and not worry about the things that you have no control over. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me on this journey and this adventure into the current state of the gaming cultural landscape. Thank you again for the opportunity to talk with you, and I hope that you got something good out of this discussion, or hopefully you got something good out of the message of hope. I thank you so much as always, and hopefully I will see you in my next video. But until then, take care.